It wasn't the worst thing in the world, but it wasn't the most pleasant experience either. But The Faithful and the Fallen centers around a giant prophecy, so a prophecy of giants. Not a big prophecy, although it is also quite large. So this is a special edition book that I've been hunting for that I managed to find on Vinted. Let this be the start of getting on top of my shit in 2026. I want to know everything about everything all of the time. In my January TBR, I asked you guys which vlog I should start the year with, whether that should be my Patreon picks, catching up on the backlog I've amassed over the last couple of months, or whether I should read through my January arcs. However, I very shortly realised that my priority for this week absolutely has to be A Time of Courage by John Gwynne, which is my current book for Catch Up Book Club. I think I have exactly a week until the live show. So this is the main thing that I'm going to be tackling in this vlog, but I did just finish an 800-page adult epic fantasy, which was of course the final book in the Lycanius trilogy by James Arlington. It took me 2 weeks to read that book, and so before we dive into more adult epic fantasy, I'm going to take a slight reprieve and refresh myself with a cozy sci-fi that is A Psalm for the Wild Bill by Becky Chambers. This is one of my Patreon picks, and it's also my January Patreon pick, so we're definitely jumping the queue a little bit, but I'm just treating myself to a 150-page novella between epic fantasy. So I did start this one last night after finishing The Light of All That Falls, and I'm currently 36 pages of the way into it, and I'm really enjoying it so far. I recently filmed my entire own TBR video, and there were quite a few comments on that video saying that people didn't think I would like this because it's cozy. I definitely understand where you're coming from, because cozy fantasy, not my thing. I've said it time and time again, don't like it, not really any interest in reading it, but I've read everything from Becky Chambers and I have loved everything from Becky Chambers, and something about their books feel like a warm hug. I feel like they put a lot of care into their stories that make them feel really fleshed out and developed, even though the plot is not at the forefront. It's more about the themes, it's more about the people. I feel like Becky Chambers puts a lot of thought into these futuristic societies that she creates, and every time I read one of her books and I read one of these societies, it makes me think about the difference between how our society works and how society could work in a way that is inclusive and benefits humanity a lot more than our society does. So this one is the story of a tea monk and a robot. We are no longer living in the age of robots. There was like a factory age or an industrial age where robots replaced humans, and humanity has moved past that, obviously, because that is not a great way for people to live. And so the robots have all but disappeared, and we're following a monk who lives in the city, and they decide one day that they just don't want to live here anymore. They want to go out into the countryside, so they become a tea monk, which essentially means that they have a wagon that they travel with, and they go and make tea for small communities and just service the community, like listen to their problems, give them an hour to sit down with a cup of tea and like decompress. And I believe that at some point they are approached by a robot while they're on their journey, and the robot asks them, what does humanity need? And I believe that this is going to spark a discussion between the two on humanity. So 35 pages into this, I'm already enjoying it immensely. I really like our main character of Dex. I realized as soon as I started this how much I've missed Becky Chambers' writing style. It is definitely cozy, but as I said, Becky Chambers is a hug in a book for me. So I am hoping to get through this today, but I am going to be taking the Christmas decorations down. Curtis has already started in the living room, so we're getting all of that stuff put away today. I also maybe want to play a board game today and probably some Baldur's Gate this evening, so we'll see if I have time to finish this off in between all of those activities. So I have my dinner, which is turkey wraps and corn on the cob. And last night we finished season 3 of Squid Game. Very disappointing. Those last few episodes, not great. But today we are starting Crash Landed on You, which I believe is a K-drama classic, and I'm very excited to try it out. So it is the first day of my first full week back after my Christmas break, and I shot myself in the foot a little bit because I've given myself a long list of admin tasks to do, which are my least favorite. My thinking was if I just settle down while I'm feeling motivated and refreshed and just power through them, that'll be a weight off and I won't have to think of all these little niggly things that need doing. So I've been just picking away at those and getting as much done as I possibly can. But guys, it is freezing. I did my best to set myself up for a successful morning, but it was -2 when I woke up, and I got up earlier than I have been, but not early enough for it to be okay that it was -2. We're now approaching midday and it is 1 degree, a singular 1 degree. So Kami hasn't been out for her morning walk yet because I wanted to wait for it to get above 0 so that it was a more comfortable walking experience for everybody involved. So I might do that after lunch to break up my day a little bit, but I'm just hoping that I can get through this endless list of things that need to be done. And you know what? I said I tried to set myself up for success this morning. I did hit a roadblock when I filled my liquid IV with hot water out of the tap instead of cold. And I'm not wasting a liquid IV sachet. They are not cheap. So I just had to suck it up and deal with it. It wasn't the worst thing in the world, but it wasn't the most pleasant experience either. But I did not manage to finish my book yesterday. That is okay though, because this year I am trying to practice comprehension over consumption. I want to take my time. I want to enjoy. I want to savor my reads. I'm working on a little something to kind of reinvigorate my TBR, shall we say, that you're not going to see for a very long time, but that is going on in the background. But I kind of want to, I want to say find the joy of reading again, because I am enjoying reading still when I pick up a book that I do enjoy. And this is a book that I enjoy. And I want to kind of be picking things up because I want to, not because I feel pressured to do so. And taking the time to retain what I'm reading and understand and comprehend it. So I'm actually also potentially going to start journaling. We'll see how that goes, because I've tried to journal before in the past. Doesn't always work out for me. Don't always stick with it, but that is also a goal of mine throughout the year as well. I have 2 journals. I didn't bring one of them downstairs, which I mean is a great start. I have one that I often use for book club books just to write notes as I'm reading so I can remember things to tell you guys, and then also to convert into a small written review when it comes to the actual journal portion after I finished a book. But I am halfway through this and I'm having a really good time. Speaking of comprehension over consumption, I think the reason why I don't like cozy fantasy is because it is incredibly popular right now. So the genre is just like stuffed with content to be consumed, shall we say, just books to be consumed. And some authors, I actually discussed this in a recent episode of Shelve It or Scrap It, but not everybody is suited to write within a particular genre. Becky Chambers is suited to write cozy stories because her discussion points are interesting. They're thought-provoking. They make you question the society that we currently live in and how very easily it could be improved if anyone gave a shit, if anyone cared enough to bother to improve the quality of life for humans, we could do that. We could set aside our prejudice, we could set aside our greed, and we could make a environment where a lot of people are happy. But we're never going to do that. I know that's a little pessimistic, especially for the beginning of the year, but I truly don't have faith in us as a species. So I'm at the point now where the robot has joined up with us. I thought that this was going to be kind of like a sit-down discussion kind of story. It's actually more of an adventure because our main character, Dex, is very unsatisfied with their life. They are setting out into the wilderness. The reason they want to become a tea monk is because they realize they don't hear cricket sounds anymore. That's not a noise that's normal in the environment. So they kind of go out into the world seeking these sounds, only to realize that crickets are pretty much extinct, but they do find a very remote location off in the wilderness where they still may hear the chirping of crickets. So they set off to discover that, and they stumble across this robot, and they are shooketh, because robots haven't been seen in a very long time, but there was an agreement made between humans and robots that robots can come and rejoin humanity at any time, but it has to be their choice. It can't be humans who decide to reintegrate robots back into society. So robots have just been off doing whatever they please for the longest time. And this one in particular is looking for a human to ask them what humans want, what humans need, because they want to make sure that humanity is progressing in a positive protective way. They feel like they abandoned the humans a little bit. So they want to just check in so that they can go back to their solitude. So they asked Dex to help them on this mission, to help them find people and ask them the question, like, what does humanity want? What does humanity need? But Dex is like, I'm sorry, I'm heading in the opposite direction. I'm going away from civilization. I want to hear these crickets. So the robot agrees to accompany Dex on the road to find the crickets, so that then Dex will accompany the robot to question the humans to find out what they want and what they need. So my aim again is to try and finish this today. I haven't read anything yet. I normally read in the morning with my coffee, but I was in such a mood to like get started on my to-do list that I abandoned that and just came straight to my desk. So we'll see how I feel once I've made it through my to-do and whether I have any energy to sit and read a good chunk of this book. That Peloton ride kicked my ass in the best way. I PR'd, which I was not expecting today. I was not expecting this week of this month, if you're picking up what I'm putting down. But I am now going to make myself a cup of tea because I've been reading this book about a tea monk. And that is making a girl thirsty. I mean, we've moved away from the tea now that the monk has wandered into the wilderness. They're not performing the services of a tea monk anymore, really. But the beginning of this book really made me want a nice cup of tea. So I have around 35 pages left, I think. I'm going to make my cup of tea. I'm going to settle down. And then when I've finished, I'm going to get myself in bed for another good start to the day tomorrow, which hopefully will go slightly better than today, because we did have a mishap with Kami this morning. Nothing serious, but she did misbehave herself first thing this morning. I set my day up for success and then she went and upset me. I'm gonna go, I've only got one peppermint and licorice left, so I'm gonna go for a nighttime tea. Weirdly, I hate the smell of lavender, but I love lavender tea. And I'm going to read the rest of my book. I'm loving it. It's just Becky Chambers, you know? Had to lock in today because I hadn't even started editing the vlog that is going up this evening, which is why it has taken me so long to talk to you guys about A Psalm for the Wild build, which I loved, of course. I've said it once in this vlog. I've said it more than once in this vlog, and I will still say it again. I just love the way that Becky Chambers approaches and perceives and discusses topics that I have never thought about from the perspective with which she writes them, if that makes any sense. I feel like her books are very philosophical, and I love the way that she presents like ideal futuristic societies. I realized that Martha Wells has blurbed this book, and on the front it says an optimistic vision of a lush, beautiful world, and I feel like that is this book in a nutshell. We had a little bit more humor than I expected from this, because I did think this was going to be these two characters sitting down and having a discussion over tea, where it's actually a little bit more of a quest story where Dex reluctantly allows this robot to come along with them on their adventure, and throughout this trip they kind of confront a lot of misconceptions that they have about each other, specifically the misconceptions that Dex has as a human has about robots. And it's interesting because when I read Becky Chambers' books, it makes me think differently or think more in depth about things that I maybe haven't delved into that much before. And that is the same thing that is happening in this book between Dex and the robot Moscap, as Moscap is making Dex think more in depth about certain issues that they've never really considered. But I also think that one of these central themes that this book tackles is ennui. So like the restlessness that humans feel when maybe everything is perfect in your life, but there's something just niggling away at you, like you're not quite happy, and you should be. You have the perfect job, you have a family that loves you, you, for all intents and purposes on paper, should be perfectly content, but there is something in you that is like itching, something that's making you want to achieve more or throw everything you have away and just start fresh, which is something that Dex is very much tackling in here. And the discussions that Dex has with Moscap also help to kind of get to the root of these issues, and the discussions that Dex and Moscap have along the way help to get to the root of these issues. I'm really excited to read the sequel to this one as well. I have been looking, because Novellas are so expensive, man. Like, this is $20 US and 99 cents, and I've had it for a few years, so it would probably be more expensive than that now. Obviously, I'm in the UK. I looked on Vinted, and there's only one up for sale right now, the sequel. I can probably get it on Libby though and read it ahead of time, and then later on pick up a copy for my collection. I was tempted because I love the cover of the paperback binder of both of the novellas in this series. But then when I actually picked this off my shelves and looked at it, I also really like this edition. So I think I'm going to try and get the matching sequel instead of trading this copy out for the bind up of both of them. But I'm so glad that I read this. It was such a nice start to the year, especially because I read it at a little bit of a slower pace, but like I've still finished a book in a couple of days. I feel like that is perfect, like New Year vibes. So while I had a really nice, peaceful, calm, relaxing time with a for the Wild Built, I now need to get serious because I have 6 days to read A Time of Courage by John Gwynne. This book is a little bit shorter than I thought. I thought it was more around the 700 page mark, and it's about 640. So if I read around 110 pages a day, then I will be golden. And because I'm so familiar with this world, it can be a little bit slow going, but I don't think I'm going to struggle so much with it being like the final book in the series. I can't get an ebook copy on Libby though, which means I'm going to have to read it physically, and with my epic fantasy these days, I do much prefer an ebook. It's a little bit kinder on those old eyeballs. But if you guys don't know, this is a follow-on series to The Faithful and the Fallen, also of course by John Gwynne. Why are you like, oh, okay. That's okay. She's licking her arm, but I thought she was licking my foot, but her arm just happens to be on my foot. It's fine. But The Faithful and the Fallen centers around a giant prophecy. So a prophecy of giants. Not a big prophecy, although it is also quite large. And the prophecy says that the entire world is going to split in two behind two avatars. One for good, one for evil. And they're going to fight it out. And overall, of course, one of them is going to win. So in this spin-off series, set 150 years later, we are kind of following the fallout of that. Throughout The Faithful and the Fallen, all of the magical elements that people thought were myth start to come to the forefront and come into reality. And so now in this series, people are dealing with some of the consequences of having these magical creatures just hanging around, existing in their society. And as a result of the outcome of The Faithful and the Fallen, there is a new, shall we say, governmental system in place in the Banished Lands that people are finding rather oppressive. So throughout this series, we follow a variety of perspectives. We follow a character who is the son of a man who fled this governmental system and tried to move somewhere outside of its reach. Follow somebody who is from a culture that has been conquered by this force. We also follow somebody who is kind of indoctrinated into it and is part of the army of this body. And then we also follow, who's our fourth perspective, somebody who works for the order that was established in The Faithful and the Fallen to fight back against the evil creatures of this world. And then we also have a bit of a dark presence looming in the background that is going to come to the forefront. So I'm really excited to see how this series concludes. I do really like this one. I think I like The Faithful and the Fallen a little bit more though, because I think in terms of the plot and the pacing of Blood and Bone is a stronger series, but then in terms of character attachment and emotional investment, I definitely was more invested in The Faithful and the Fallen than I am in Of Blood and Bone. But because this is the conclusion of a series, and obviously when we're talking about wrapping things up, the strength of the plot is really important. I feel like there's potential for this one to come to a really great end, but the amount of things that the characters are trying to accomplish in here to bring it to an end, I think is a little bit ambitious. I should definitely be editing my best books of the year video, but I'm going to continue procrastinating on that and bring you guys a little bit of a haul. So this is a special edition book that I've been hunting for that I managed to find on Vinted, and also something I ordered in the Boxing Day sales that is not book related. So we will start with the book. I always get nervous buying things with printed edges on resale because I can't obviously inspect the edges myself, and it is a Waterstones edition, so you know how those tend to go. Ooh, stickers. I don't always have a use for stickers, but now that I'm thinking about starting a book journal, I feel like I can use all the stickers I keep getting to fill the spaces in that. See, the upsetting thing about this is that I have bought this book at resale. I did pay more than retail price for it. But personally, because I'm buying a little bit less these days, I would rather wait and see if I like a book and pay more for it at resale than buy every really nice special edition book full price from Waterstones and then end up not enjoying it and having to unhaul most of them. I feel like that is actually a little bit more cost effective for me, especially with how picky I've been recently and how I don't seem to love anything. But back to the point that I was getting to, it's annoying because with the way that this has been packaged with like special stickers and stickers inside it, it implies that this is somebody who buys to resell, which is a little bit annoying. Lots of bubble wrap, which we love to see. I do think it has a tiny bit of a crushed corner on it, which is annoying, but not the end of the world. And this is, of course, Shield of Sparrows by Devney Perry, which was one of my favourite books of last year. It does have some like marking on the dust jacket, but to be fair, I do have a standard edition of this, so I think I might just swap the dust jacket out. That's the bit that I said has a little bit of a crushed corner on it. But because I loved this book so much, I was sent a standard edition from the publisher because it was published by Penguin Michael Joseph, who are, I guess, distributing Red Turtle books for the UK. And it ended up being one of my favourite books of the year, one of the best romances that I read last year. And so I knew I wanted this gorgeous Waterstones edition. And I've pre-ordered the matching edition of The Rights of the Starling. And then the other thing that I ordered, this was a bargain. So do you guys know the green sweatpants set that I always wear? It's from Lululemon. It's like dark green sweatpants and a dark green quarter zip. They're from Lululemon, so they were quite expensive. Curtis bought them for me for Christmas last year. And I think the top and the sweatpants are like £108 each, full price at retail. So Lululemon have been doing a sale. They do sales quite regularly where they sell their off-season colours for a reasonable price. But a little hack if you're looking for things like the scuba quarter zips. Lululemon make some of the apparel for Peloton, like they have a collab, and the Peloton apparel sales are always fire. So like I said, I think the sweatpants and the top are normally £108 each. I got these for £35 each, and then I got an additional 20% off for being like a Peloton club member. And I'm so excited. Not only, I didn't get them matching unfortunately, but not only did I get them for so cheap, the top is black. A black Lululemon quarter zip for less than £35. Would it be like £28? That's insanity. I'm sure you're going to see me actually wearing these this weekend. You need to try on the quarter zip because I got a slightly smaller size, which I thought was fine because the green one is huge, so I felt like I could downsize in that. But for the sweatpants, I got brown. I will say these do feel thinner than the ones that I bought directly from Lululemon. I know that a lot of people have said there's been a quality shift in Lululemon recently. A lot of my Lululemon leggings I bought a couple of years ago, so I haven't had anything super recent from them in that regard. And I actually don't think I got anything new in 2025 at all, but everything I've had before that has been fine, but these do feel thinner. Let's try out the quarter zip. I feel like this feels pretty standard. The only difference between this and the one that I have is this one doesn't have a hood, which is fine. But let me try this one on because I did get that smaller size. Okay, you can definitely tell that it's a smaller size, but I think it's still like plenty roomy, especially in the sleeves. Oh no. I thought it didn't have thumb holes. I was going to riot. I was going to cry about that because that's my favourite thing. Should I put the sweatpants on? I'm just going to go over my leggings. Let me look at the toggles. The toggles are the same on them. I can't even tell like whether they're thinner now because I've put them on over leggings. I do really think that they are though. But aside from that, I'm happy. I'm actually glad feeling these that I didn't pay full price for them because they do feel a little bit thinner. Although actually thinking about it, these I've just like scooped them out of the wash. But I don't know, it's hard because these have been washed like multiple times over the course of a year. It's hard to tell. I think I might be making it up. I think they might be fine. I just felt like when I got these, they were like super, super squishy, and I feel like these lack that, but they'll do. And for the price, it's fine. So the reading is slow going. I told you guys if I read 110 pages a day, I would be golden. And I'm here now to tell you that I have not been reading 110 pages a day. And sadly, I'm also not golden. I am on page 200 of this book. And the live show is in 55 hours. So I've got some work to do. I do think it was a little bit rough to get into this one. We start immediately in a battle, and there's very little of what I've read so far that isn't battle scenes. Some of them I am a little bit more invested in than others, depending on who are like the main participants in the battle, like what we're trying to achieve. The last little bit that I read was one of those that like piqued my interest a little bit more, because we kind of have our characters coming together more than they were when we start this series. I don't think anybody knows each other. Two of the perspective characters know each other. Everybody else is like in a different area of the world. So the narratives have obviously intersected throughout the course of this series. And now we have a lot of characters that are in the same place. And it's nice to kind of see the camaraderie and seeing them come together like that. There are a couple of perspectives in here that I am finding interesting, but they're not especially likable characters. It's one of those where like I'm annoyed that I have to read from their perspectives because I don't like them, but actually they're providing a valuable perspective on what is going on in like different areas of this world. I do still feel like this is going to be an ambitious series to bring to a close because we have a lot to tackle. And I was actually on sprints last night with my patrons, and I got a sense that everybody who was in there that was reading this book feel kind of similarly to how I feel right now, where it is like extremely battle heavy. And obviously that's not going to change. I did feel the same about Wrath though, which is the last book in the Faithful and the Fallen. And the first little bit of that I did struggle with. It wasn't my favorite section of that series by any means, but I really loved the end battle scene in that one that was really cinematic. I have noticed though that I'm infinitely more invested in the chapters that we have, the few chapters that we have kind of in between the battle scenes or when we briefly switch to a different location away from whatever battle is currently happening, but I just don't foresee there being too many slow moments in this one. But I do obviously have to pick up the pace a little bit on this one now. I had a moderate list of things to do for today, of which I've only accomplished one thing so far. But I think that while tackling that to-do list would set me up better for Monday, I am going to have a very difficult weekend if I have to read like 200 pages a day of this. So I'm going to sit and read a little bit of this now and maybe knock off just one or two things that I was intending to do today. I really struggle to focus on reading when there's something else that needs to be done. And that's always been the case for me. Like I can't really sit and read in the morning anymore. I used to enjoy like my morning reset, just like with my coffee and my book, but I find myself kind of itching to get into the things that I have to do in the day. So I've actually tried something I've been trying to do this week is have really productive working days where I'm getting through as much as possible, because then eventually if I pre-film all of my content in advance, if all I have to do is really edit vlogs, then I'm going to be able to spend much more time reading later on in the month. And that was definitely the plan of what I was trying to do this week. But unfortunately, like I said, I think that this does have to take precedent a little bit for today, and then we'll see how I get on Monday. I also hormonally I'm struggling today. So I just think that while my intentions going into this week were great and I had a productive first 2 days, like an amazing first 2 days of this week, the further we're getting into this week, the more sluggish that I'm feeling. Good afternoon. I woke up this morning and I read 50 pages of my book. So I have 350-ish pages of A Time of Courage to read before 8 p.m. tomorrow. So we're going to be chipping away at that across the next 32 hours. I think very much needs to be done, but something else that needs to be done is my bathroom needs decluttering, organizing, cleaning, all of the things. Just in general, it needs doing. Like it needs a wipe over, and we need to like kind of get things back in order. I also have just like a build up of cosmetic products that have just kind of, mainly things that have been gifted to me, just like random face. This is a perfect example. Do you remember that face mask that was really popular like 5 years ago that would literally pull everything out of your face? It's not really good for you, but somebody gifted it to me. So I have like one of these and I didn't want to throw it away. But I also don't want to rip all the stuff out my face when it's not good for my face. So yeah, we need to do like a massive de-stash just in general, but we are having a full bathroom renovation. And I'm so excited because, as you can tell, probably just from this shot, like our bathroom is old, it's dated, it needs just generally updating. But then we also have like bouncy floorboards that we've had for quite some time that need fixing. The tiles are all kind of like old-fashioned with these like faded pink flowers on them. I actually couldn't even put a decade on my bathroom. Like, I have no idea when this bathroom was fitted, but we're having like a literal full works renovation. They're starting a week on Monday, and it's literally like a complete full rip out. So like the floorboards will be fixed, we're getting new floor, new tiles, all new appliances. And so this weekend, what I want to do is go through all of the cosmetics and stuff, put everything that we're not going to be using in the next 5 weeks in a separate box. Like, I have fake tan. I'm not going to be fake tanning in the next 5 weeks. So all that kind of stuff can like go away, and then all of the stuff that we are going to need, we can keep together, as well as all of the stuff that we're going to need on a daily basis. And then I'll see if I have any kind of unopened products that I don't need that I can donate, and a lot of stuff that's just been lingering in the back of cupboards for years that hasn't been used can go in the bin. So that is going to be my next task. It's a little bit daunting, but I also feel like it's going to be really satisfying. But I have like an issue of letting things go. Like, I don't like to give things away, or well, not give things away, it's actually throw things away if they can be used. Like, do I want to use them? No. Could I use them? Yes. And I also don't like to donate things if somebody's gifted them to me, because it feels like really ungrateful, you know. But realistically, all of these things are just kind of hiding in the back of cupboards and they're no use to anybody. So today we're going to sort through them and let this be the start of getting on top of my shit in 2026. Like I said, I do really struggle to let go of things, including books that I've had on my TBR for like 4 years, and I've either never really had that much interest in them, I had a very fleeting interest in them, or I just don't care about them anymore. I have clothes in my wardrobe that it's like, oh my god, I loved this when I was 19, but I'm now 32 and I don't need it. I've also lost like quite a bit of weight over the last few years as well, and I have actually already gotten rid of a lot of the stuff that no longer fits me. But I do have stuff like an enormous red hoodie that I'm probably never going to wear because it was never that special to begin with, and stuff like that I need to let go of. But like I said, it is really hard for me. So we're going to tackle the bathroom today out of necessity, and then next weekend we're going to do things like, I kind of want to keep these because I do find them really handy for all of the like daily stuff that we use. Like my skincare goes in here and Curtis's beard stuff and that goes in this side. But I don't know, because this alcove is actually where the sink is going to go. The sink is in front of me right now. We're moving the sink to here, so we're going to have like a big light up mirror, and then all of this alcove is going to be tiled, and the toilet, which is like not quite in the alcove but it's more over that side, is going to be moved to the middle, and then the shower and the bath obviously replaced, getting a freestanding bath and a bigger shower. I'm so excited. An overhead shower as well. I'm so ready for this new bathroom. Yeah, I don't know where I would put these, but I do find them really useful. So I'm thinking about getting the same, because it's like a plasticky coated kind of shelving unit. I'm thinking of getting the same kind of paint that you would use to paint IKEA furniture. Maybe painting them black, because all of the fixtures and fittings we're getting are going to be either black or brass, depending on what they are. Like the feet on the bath will be black, all of the taps and stuff, and the shower are going to be brass. So they could go like above the bath, but I don't want to throw them away just yet because I find them helpful, and this covering is literally just like sticky back plastic, so I can remove that and then replace it with like more of a plain frosted one. So yeah, we'll see. But I need to crack on because I have a lot of reading to do today, so I don't want this task to take forever, but I am going to get into the real nitty gritty of it. I'm kind of excited about it though. Hello. So I am 404 pages into A Time of Courage now, aka we are getting there. I have 250 pages to read in the next 20 hours and 11 minutes, which averages, I think, at about 12 and a half pages per hour, which, you know, obviously that sounds doable. But then if you think about the fact that I'm going to spend the next like at least 8 hours sleeping, I think it's going to be touch and go. I do plan on reading another 50 pages before I go to sleep, because that was like I needed to read 200 today, 200 tomorrow. I'm going to do 50 in the morning. I want to get a workout in, and then it's Sunday. So I've done all of my productive stuff today so that I don't have anything on tomorrow, because you know me, like I love a lazy Sunday. The good news about the book is that I am enjoying it a little bit more now that I am more into it, like physically through it. I am still disassociating through the battles a little bit though. I think that that's just me. And we always expect fantasy to have big epic battle scenes, or at least the type of fantasy like this that I read quite a bit of. But I do prefer having a build up to like a lengthy, maybe 100-page epic battle than regularly interspersed fight scenes throughout the book. Like the majority of this book is different battles between various parties that are meeting as everyone's kind of being maneuvered into the same place. And I mean, in the context of the story, it does make perfect sense. John Gwynne as an author has a background in medieval reenactment. I think it's medieval. It might be Viking reenactment, some sort of like historical battle reenactment anyway, which is why his fight scenes are so in depth and also like somewhat accurate. I say somewhat because I am not qualified enough to tell you how accurate they are, but he has a little bit of experience. And also because of the type of story this is and the fact that it's just a trilogy, so we have to maneuver the characters or move them around quite a lot in each book to be able to bring quite an ambitious narrative to a close. So as everyone is kind of progressing towards what is going to be the end point of this book, we obviously have various people popping off. I do really love the slower moments though, and that's what I was talking about earlier, like when I started this book, and I was saying that I do think I slightly prefer The Faithful and the Fallen because we have a lot more of those slower moments, which builds a stronger connection to the characters. We have already had some casualties in this so far, which was completely expected from John Gwynne. I mean, it's casualties from start to finish, literally in all of his series. I don't know, I feel like book one, Malice, you have like a good few hundred pages before we start to get the casualties, but people are dying all over the Banished Lands. I did get a little emotional. I did not shed a tear, but I think it's only when we get to the end of an epic fantasy series like this that you kind of realize that, okay, I have become somewhat attached to the characters. Maybe I'm not as attached as I was to the Faithful, the Fallen ones, but I am still enjoying this story enough to be a little bit upset when we lose some of our characters. So I'm interested to see mainly how this one all wraps up. I'm sure there will be an epic battle scene, but I have said all throughout reading this series, I feel like the scope of the plot is pretty ambitious, considering there's less books in this series and they're all considerably smaller than the ones in The Faithful and the Fallen. So right now it's pretty clear what we're heading towards. I mean, obviously when I'm reading this kind of story, like I'm hopeful that our heroes can win, but because this is a series that deals with the aftermath of the resolution of the first series, I'm wondering how much finality we're going to have in the conclusion of this one. Like, is this going to be a happily ever after, the world is a peaceful place, or are we just going to get to a point yet again where it's better, but it's not ideal, so that it can be revisited in the future and we can kind of like fight the evil one more time? I think it was at the end of the last book, it might be in this book as well, there was an author interview where John Gwynne said that he may potentially revisit this series, or this world, should I say, again, once again, 100+ years after the conclusion of this one. So that leads me to believe we are going to have a little bit more of an open ending, although I am hoping, at least there's a couple of things that I'm hoping for. I do think that only one element is going to be resolved. I don't think it's going to be resolved to the degree, like I said, that this world is like a kind of really peaceful place to live, and I don't foresee any problems cropping up in the future that have been kind of directly caused by the events of The Faithful and the Fallen. So I fully intended to come and wrap this vlog up for you guys last night, but after our live show discussing A Time of Courage, I skedaddled pretty quick to watch an episode of Crash Landing on You because I hadn't watched one at dinner time like I normally do because I was finishing the book, and also because the football was on and Curtis was watching that. But in terms of Crash Landing on You, by the way, I understand why so many people love that one now. The reason why I was hesitant about it to start off with, even though it has very high ratings overall and it's very highly recommended, is because when you look at like the main photo that they used to promote it on Netflix, and also like when you look up the show, the jacket that the main character is wearing just in that one episode is like a brown overcoat, and it makes it look like it's a war drama. And you know me, when it comes to like reading as well of historical fiction, are you well? Can you be a little more calm, please? When it comes to any kind of fictional media, war era is not my favorite. However, I did eventually just decide to give it a try because it is so highly rated and it is not historical whatsoever. It is set in the modern day and it is following a heiress from South Korea who gets swept into a tornado in a paraglider. Is it a paraglider? I think it's a paraglider, and she ends up stranded in North Korea where this soldier finds her and he realizes that if he reports her to the authorities, then it's going to get himself and the little troop that he commands in trouble. So they band together to try and like secretly get her back to South Korea. Obviously, as these things go, it's a romance, so they fall in love and things become incredibly complicated. We have high stakes because the North Korean government there's something going on and people are like being killed, and the male main character has been looking into that and they don't like that, so they have a little bit of a vendetta against him and they start to try to use this South Korean woman against him, especially as they start to figure out like where she's come from and getting a little bit closer to the truth of the matter. I love it so much. It's so good. My favorite drama is Lovely Runner because that was the first one that I ever watched and I just very quickly became obsessed. It's probably, if we talk objectively, it's probably not the best drama I've ever watched now in hindsight, although I still think it's amazing and would recommend it for people new to K-dramas. I have only watched, I think, 4 in their entirety. 5 if you count Squid Game, but because Squid Game is so commercial, it doesn't have all of the like hallmarks of a traditional K-drama or a typical K-drama, should I say, based on what else I've seen. I really, really liked Marry My Husband. That's another favourite. I didn't love Doom at Your Service. I started watching My Demon and I haven't got very far through that one. I need to go back and like give it another chance. And now Crash Landed on You is still in my heart. I think if you watch Lovely Runner, there's a lot that you would like about Crash Landing on You and also vice versa. So I'm about halfway through that and I'm really, really excited to get back to it. That's not even why I came to talk to you guys. Obviously, I came to wrap up this vlog, but mainly to tell you about A Time of Courage. But I am trying to, revive the weekly vlog in 2026. They're not going to be weekly, but the style of the weekly vlog, What are you doing? Oi! She's just taken a candle off the fireplace and she's rolling it across the floor with her nose. Oh, and now that's a game. Kami, that's not a toy. Are you not sleepy? You've just been for a walk. Yeah, I love making vlogs. Vlogs are my favorite content to watch. So I have been very enthusiastic about getting back into making these kinds of vlogs very regularly. So let me know if you're enjoying them. One of the reasons why is because I do want to read, as I've mentioned in this vlog, a little bit more intentionally and consciously throughout 2026, which I think is going to make me more enthusiastic to read. So my hope is that generally overall there won't be actually too much difference in the amount of books that I read, because instead of just kind of reading anything and reading a lot because of that, I'm assuming that because I'm hopefully going to be enjoying what I read maybe a little bit more, that will make me just naturally want to read more. But there is potential obviously for me to read just a little bit less this year, and that's absolutely fine, and I'm not pressed if that is what ends up being the result. But because of that, I wanted to kind of put my energy back into this kind of vlog a little bit more. I will be honest, like this style of reading vlog very much flip-flops depending on my mood and what I have going on in my life. Like towards the end of last year, personally, I wasn't having a great time. There's stuff that you guys know about and stuff that was going on that like you guys don't know about. And I think when I'm going through a hard time, it makes me very reluctant to share more of my personal life, which is where these kind of vlogs fade into the background a little bit. And then sometimes, like right now, I'm a little bit more comfortable and enthusiastic about talking a little bit more about lifestyle and what's going on in my life alongside reading as well. So anyway, the whole point is just let me know if you've enjoyed the last 2 vlogs that I posted, because I've had a really good time making them. And like I said, it is also my favorite content to consume. But in terms of the books, which is, let's be honest, it's why most of you are here, I finished A Time of Courage last night with an hour and a half to spare, which I'm quite proud of. I wasn't quite down to the wire. And I gave this one 3.5 stars. It is my lowest rated book in the Banished Lands that I've read so far, my lowest rated John Gwynne book. I don't overall dislike it. There was still a lot that I really enjoyed about this book, but I think that I had a lot of similar issues that I had when I read Wrath, which is the last book in the Faithful and the Fallen. However, I wasn't as attached to the characters in this series as I was the Faithful and the Fallen, and so there wasn't as much that I enjoyed about it, or I guess was like as emotionally invested in, which is why it brought down my rating just a tad. So this book, as I've talked about many times, is very, very battle heavy, and that was my least favorite thing about it, just as somebody who can zone out a little bit in the battle scenes. Like, I'm here for the in-between moments. Like with Wrath though, the end battle scene, the last 200 pages of this book were pretty epic, and I liked our concluding string of fights that we had going on. I actually braked at a perfect time on Saturday night, because as soon as I started reading on Sunday, we were getting straight into the first day of like this 2-day battle that we have, and I read the whole thing pretty much back to back, which was nice. I liked the way that this ended. Overall, I was a little bit worried with how ambitious I felt this trilogy was plot-wise, and having less books and shorter books at that. But I feel like John Gwynne did a very good job of bringing everything to a close in a way that satisfied me. I think that there is a little bit of a difference between the way John Gwynne writes magic and the way that I like magic to be written, shall we say, because we have a little bit of an uptick in the magical events towards the end of this book. This is a world that has magical creatures. We have a lot of warriors, but then there is also magic in this world, and it plays a little bit of a lesser part in the series. It's something that the giants know about and know how to wield, and then there's very few people who are trained in it, and we get a little bit more of a resurgence of that, and obviously that being utilized in this final battle. We also actually make a little bit of a discovery about the magic, but all of that is kind of alluded to. Like, the discovery that we make, I feel I have assumed a lot about what happened there, as opposed to actually finding out what went on and what particular items were that we discovered in this book, shall we say, without spoilers. And the book right at the end in the final battle became a lot more magical, but throughout this series we still didn't really have any more explanation of the magic than we had in the Faithful of the Fallen. And as we were discussing in the live show last night, there are different approaches to magic. Different authors write magic in different ways. There are some authors that are like, magic is magic, if you explain it, it's not magic, it's science. And then you have Brandon Sanderson, who's like, yeah, no, magic is science. I'm in the camp of magic is science, and I want to know how it works. I want to know where it comes from. I want to know how it's manifested. And that is why I don't get on with classic fantasy, because it's all a bit whimsical. It's all a bit, this happened because I said I wanted it to, and that's just how the magic works in that moment. That magic is not for me. This has an origin, and it has not necessarily laws and rules, which is okay. They don't have to have laws and rules and systems. I think my frustration surrounding the magic in this world in particular is that I know that it has an origin. I see glimpses of its origins, but we're not following that path. We're not really exploring and learning more about the magic in a way that presents it as a full picture. It's just kind of like, these people can use it. They've been training in it. They got the spells out of this book. These people know how to use it just culturally. This person knows how to use it, which is what makes him a bit special. And yeah, that's one of my biggest kind of, I don't want to say criticisms of this series, but something that's missing a little bit for me is just like kind of following those threads and fully fleshing out the history and the origins of things in a way that make me feel like I have a really good understanding of this world, shall we say. This has a world that has a history, but we're definitely more following the plot and current events than we are diving into the origins of everything that's going on. And you know me, I want to know everything about everything all of the time, and so I'd like to know a little bit more about that kind of stuff. Something that I think John Gwynne is really good at, though, is writing a really good found family, a really good sense of camaraderie. His character relationships in general, I think, are always really well developed. I especially love his mentor-mentee dynamics that he writes. Romantic relationships, you know, I could take them or leave them. John Gwynne actually writes romantic relationships the way that I prefer them to be written when we're talking about books that are not intrinsically romantic. Some characters have romantic relationships in here. It forms a part of who they are. They're maybe regularly thinking about that person. When they come together, when they haven't seen each other for a while, we'll have a paragraph about how they kissed and were so happy to see each other, and that's pretty much it. And that is the way I prefer it. If you are not a romance writer, don't try and write romance romantically. It's fine. We don't expect it of you, and it's not usually executed very well. Just do this. Just kind of gloss over it like it's there. It's not a big deal. Let's move on with the action. And my favorite thing about this one actually is that it does deal with some darker and deeper topics throughout this series. When we talk about the faithful and the fallen, it doesn't have any obvious parallels to our modern day society in a way that is any kind of more profound or more unique than any general standard fantasy book, which is fine. But this one, it deals with topics of systemic abuse, abuse within institutions, abuse within religion, also kind of cult-like organizations, and it was something that was unexpected from this series for me. I didn't think that we were going to go in that direction, but I actually think that it added a little bit of extra dimension and depth to the series that I really appreciated. And I also liked that, especially in book one, we had this little horror element that I absolutely did not expect coming through as well. So glad that I read The Banished Lands. Not one of my favorite series of all time, but I do think that it is a solid one, and I would recommend that you pick up this world. Probably not as an introductory epic fantasy series, but if you are looking for more fantasy series to explore after you've read a couple, then I think that this is a solid one to choose. And I think I've already mentioned in this vlog, but if I haven't, we are going to be adding on an extra trilogy onto Faith Fall Along, where we read John Gwyn's Bloodsworn Saga. So if you've been watching Catch Up Book Club from afar, if you've been waiting to get involved, now is a perfect time. This is a really great way to dip your toes into Catch Up Book Club, because we typically do series like this where it's more than one series set in the same world, and that is what we're going to be moving on to next after we've done the Bloodsworn Saga. So if you are looking to join the book club with less commitment, the Bloodsworn Saga is just a trilogy right now, and the next book that John Gwyn releases is also not set in the same world as that, so he's going to be moving on to something new, not revisiting this in a while. So it's literally just 3 books and done if you want a little catch-up book club 101, and I will of course put the announcement video in my description box so you can check that out if you would like more information. But this was a much longer clip than I anticipated because I went off on so many tangents, but I do hope you've enjoyed this vlog if you've made it this far. Because of where I'm sat, you can probably tell where I'm going next, but I do think if everything goes to plan, you'll have actually seen this video before you see this one. So who knows what the next vlog you're going to see on my channel is, but I hope that at the point that you're seeing this, you've enjoyed all of the end of year content, and I do hope you've enjoyed this vlog if you've made it this far. If you have, please don't forget to like if you liked it and subscribe if you wanna, and I'll see you guys next week. Bye!
Oh, you bite your friend like chocolate. You say you're go and nobody knows, with guns hidden under our petticoats. We're never gonna quit it, no, we're never gonna quit it, no.